Hi, it's Nicole. This is the second part of my year-end review of 2021. In total, I read 102 books from January to December, and I give 45 books 4 stars and only 5 books 5 stars. I'm going to give 4 books special awards today, but first of all, here are my 5 5-star books. These are not in any particular order. I love each of them for different reasons. First of all, Vanity Fair. This is my favorite Victorian novel of 2021. I spent a lot of 2020 to 2021 academic year reading Victorian novels, and after reading 10 of them, I found my favorite. If I have to summarize in one word why I prefer it, it's more fun. It's just more fun. Before I started, I thought Vanity Fair was all about one scheming woman and expected quite a dark book. But it's not dark and it's not all about one woman. And I think that's one reason I like Vanity Fair more. It follows more than one protagonist. As brilliant as these books are, Jane Eyre, Great Expectations, North and South, and The Portrait of a Lady, I get to watch only one person speak and move. And if I didn't get on with that one person, it became really hard work. So it's not about one woman, it's about 2, Amelia Sedley and Becky Sharp. But to be fair, Becky Sharp is a lot more famous ever since she was created, probably because she is very different to the usual virtuous women protagonists in Victorian literature. She starts with a very humble beginning. She plays her advantages to the maximum, her femininity, her intelligence, her independent spirits. She conquers every man and woman that comes her way, except one. The useful ones she makes use of, the useless ones she tramples upon. You watch her for a few hundred pages and there is not a dull moment. Becky Sharp is not a good person in many ways. I could imagine how Victorian readers judged her. But surprisingly, Thackeray didn't give her an ending a wicked person deserves. She didn't die lonely, despised, diseased, as Scrooge was shown in A Christmas Carol. And from the beginning to the end, Thackeray commands her subtly, her rebellion against rigid social expectations, her independent spirit, and her love for freedom with a twinkle in his eye. I think that's quite unique in a Victorian novel. And then we have Amelia Sedley, the typical virtuous Victorian woman, whose life runs parallel with Becky in many ways, but reacts completely differently. In the same surprising way, the good and innocent Amelia nearly doesn't get the happy ending the readers expect. Her virtue is shown as foolish, and that must be a shock to many original readers too. Such is life, the righteous perishing in righteousness, and the wicked living long in their wickedness. Thackeray is completely realistic. Like the title suggests, reading Vanity Fair is a bit like watching a fun fair. You get terribly involved sometimes, but sometimes you sit back and watch from a distance, listening to Thackeray's running commentary on his puppets, on the Regency society from a Victorian point of view, on human nature, and very subtly on morality. Here's another reason I like the book. I like Thackeray's writer's voice. He's like a guide and a companion who has walked the road, and I feel very safe and relaxed walking through the fanfare with him. The second of my 5-star books, Transcendent Kingdom. This is the one book that I recommended to family and friends most this last year. It's about an insecure and vulnerable young woman opening up her wounds to show us and trying to make sense of the hardships and sufferings in her and her family's lives. It's about mother and daughter, it's about meaning and purpose of life, it's about being a neuroscientist and being a Christian. When I first finished the novel, instead of a usual book review, I wrote a letter to her because I felt like I haven't just read a book, I have got to know Gifty as a person. So here it is. Dear Gifty, thank you for writing the book and sharing the story. You have been incredibly brave, though you might say, well, I didn't choose to be. the situation didn't give me an option. I'd rather be part of a normal family and grow up as a protected and carefree girl. I couldn't, could I? I know, but like your Aunt Joyce said, you are a wonderful child, and you have made all your family and friends proud, including me, a stranger. You have been so tender with your mother. When you and your brother were young and he stopped going to church, it was you who sat beside her in church because you couldn't bear to think how lonely she would be. You remembered small little things to please your sick, unresponsive mother, buying Ghanaian cookbooks and practicing home dishes, filling the cupboard with food, putting out music she liked, cleaning with bleach, rubbing her skin, reading John's Gospel to her. You waited patiently, persevered with good grace. I loved your childhood journal full of conversation with God. Growing up as a Christian sounds like a confusing process. The episodes about rescuing dogs and DIY baptism really made me laugh, but it must have been hard when the church did not welcome logical thinking and reasoning. I hope you know by now that the answer to your brother's totally legit question deserves a more considered answer, and the answer is nothing like what PT gave that day. His answer was unkind, self-righteous, and it must have been painful when church members started to isolate your family because of your brother's addiction. People didn't understand, and they judged. But Pastor John kept coming and praying and looking out for you, didn't he? You see, people are so mixed up. If I remember correctly, you were not resentful towards those alienating people, but you were grateful for Pastor John. You have a gracious big heart. You said many things out loud, some for Christianity, some against it, division and racism inside church for one. But thank you for being honest. Church has always been a mess throughout history, a work in progress. But please, Gifty, don't lose sight of Christ himself. I loved your large understanding of science and faith. You explicitly said, this tension, this idea that one must necessarily choose between science and religion, is false. Many would agree or disagree, but thank you for saying that out loud as well. You have been brilliant at your research. I'm sure there are many brilliant neuroscientists. You want to find out, could optogenetics be used to identify the neural mechanism involved in psychiatric illnesses where there are issues with reward seeking, like in depression, where there is too much restraint in seeking pleasure, or drug addiction, where there is not enough. But you are different. It's not just academic or scientific, it's personal to you. Could it get a brother to set down a needle? Could it get a mother out of bed? It's too late for them, but one day it will heal someone's brother or mother, and they will have their family back, and all your effort will be worthwhile. I'm really glad to hear you are now happy with Han. It must be such a relief to have someone who knows everything and understands. I hope you are still in touch with Catherine. She sounds like such a good friend. Lastly, may you hear the knock and have the full assurance of God's presence once again. Love, Nicole. A swim in a pond in the rain. It's the best teacher of 2021. In this book, George Saunders reads through 7 Russian short stories and shares wisdom from years of writing novels and teaching students. I think this paragraph sums up what I love most about this book and why I love it so much. The basic drill I'm proposing here is read the story, then turn your mind to the experience you've just had. Was there a place you found particularly moving? Something you resisted or that confused you? A moment where you found yourself tearing up, getting annoyed, thinking anew? Any lingering questions about the story? Any answer is acceptable. If you, my good-hearted trooper of a reader, felt it, it's valid. If it confounded you, that's worth mentioning. If you were bored or pissed off, valuable information. No need to dress up your response in literal language or express it in terms of theme or plot or character development or any of that. And he's true to his words. There are no big words or academic phrases in the book. There's no thought or teaching I could not follow. No one has taught me the art of reading or writing like this book did. I have in mind the academic literature books like A Very Short Introduction series or Virginia Woolf or C.S. Lewis. When I read them, you always make me feel like, okay, I know you know lots and you have great ideas, but do you really want to share it with me? Because I can't quite understand what you are trying to say. I know your thoughts are profound and your style is elegant, but is there really not a plainer way to explain this? But in this book, George Saunders genuinely wants me to understand and genuinely wants to help me on this journey. The book includes In the Cart, The Darling and Gooseberries by Chekhov, Master and Man, Alicia the Pot by Tolstoy, The Singers by Turgenev, and The Nose by Gogol. As the author says in the introduction, if my goal was to get a non-reader to fall in love with the short story, these are among the stories I'd offer her. They are great stories, but they are not all equally great. Some are great in spite of certain flaws, some are great because of their flaws. It's attractive and intriguing right from the beginning. And he did it. He single-handedly made me interested in Russian literature. His enthusiasm is contagious, his manner is warm and easy. He keeps saying, "Do you see? Do you see? What do you think? Isn't it fascinating?" I have always believed any subject of study can be interesting. It all depends on how good the teacher is. George Saunders, you are an excellent teacher. Thank you. Next one, Anna Karenina, the most passionate love story of 2021. I know Anna Karenina can't be labelled simply as a love story, but what stood out most for me is the passionate love story between Anna and Vronsky. The scenes where Kitty watched them dancing in Agni, where Anna travelled alone by train in a snowstorm, and Vronsky just appeared in the dark night to be where you are. It's terribly romantic. There is no thought of reason or consequence or people's opinion, if it's right or wrong, if it's good or bad. The mere thought of this person is powerful enough to make you whistle joyfully and feel like being picked up and carried off by the wind. It's how I imagined love as a teenager when we were reckless, so I loved it when I found the same kind of passion in one of the greatest novels ever written. Being the Bad Guys, the best Christian book of 2021. Being the Bad Guys is about the drastic change of opinion towards Christianity and how Christians should respond to it. Many books touch on this topic. What I like most about this book is not only the author explains the situation really clearly, but more his attitude that comes through it all. He is confident he's in the right camp and facing the vast army from the opposite camp. He does not panic at the sight or the thought. Like Psalm 4 says, "In peace I lie down and sleep, because you alone, Lord, make me dwell in safety." I will read a little bit from the book. Being on the wrong side is tiring and demoralizing. It makes us feel defeated or angry. But I am not going to tell you how to stop being one of the bad guys, because the only way to stop being a bad guy in the eyes of the world is to become what the world says is a good guy. And right now, that means compromising in all kinds of areas where the world beckons one way and the Bible points another. So this book isn't about how to stop being the bad guys. It's about how to be the bad guys. It's about how to be the best bad guy you can be. To refuse to be surprised, confused, despairing and mad about it, and to find a way to become clear-sighted, confident and even joyful in it. So that's my 5-star books, and now I have 4 special awards to give. First of all, the most pleasant surprise, Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. I mentioned this in my December wrap-up, so if you've seen it already, feel free to skip this section. I had 2 things against Sir Gawain and the Green Knight before I started. It was one of the oldest pieces of writing, and I was intimidated by the idea. And secondly, it was poetry. I failed poetry completely in 2021, except this one. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I managed to follow the whole story, even though it was a massive long poem and it was from the 14th century. It's part romance, part thriller, and part fantasy. I can even imagine how Sir Gawain looks like and how he moves about. It's such a pleasant surprise. Second award, the most bizarre / whimsical or random author of the year, Nikolai Gogol, with both The Nose and The Night Before Christmas. I read The Nose in a swim in a pond in the rain and thought it the most bizarre and hilarious story I've ever read. And in December I read The Night Before Christmas, and now I couldn't decide which of the 2 is more bizarre and hilarious. I explained how sparkling The Night Before Christmas was in my December wrap-up, so I won't repeat it here. But The Nose starts with a barber getting up one morning and finding a nose in a loaf of bread at breakfast. He recognized the nose belonged to one of his clients. Worried that the police would come and arrest him, he decided to go out and throw it away. And in another part of the city, the owner of the nose went everywhere looking for it and found his nose getting off a carriage, running up some stairs, wearing a uniform. I listened to quite a lot of audiobooks in 2021, and the next award is called the audiobook production that won my highest respect, and the winner is Ulysses. At the end of Adam Kay's Towards the Night Shifts Before Christmas, he said something like, "This is not a long book, but the audio recording took me hours." I have huge respect for anyone who reads aloud or voice acts novels, but my respect for Jim Norton, who narrates Ulysses, is on a complete different level. It's an amazing production. It's one of the very first audiobooks I tried, and I was in awe. It's a piece of art itself, and it adds so much to the text. The last special award also goes to an audiobook. It's my favorite audiobook voice of the year. The winner is Tony Foster reading The Rainbow. I just think he has a really sexy voice. It's the perfect voice to read The Rainbow. Even the family name Ranguin sounded more mysterious and fascinating when it came out of Tony Foster's mouth. I like his narrator voice, I like his little girl voice, I like his old woman voice, and I like his farmer voice. I don't even like the story that much. I just like listening to him read. So that's my 5-star books of the year and 4 special awards. 2021 has been a really good reading year. If you are going to try any of these books, please let me know. Or if you've read them already, let me know what you think about them. And someone, please try Tony Foster reading The Rainbow. I'll put the link in the description box. Let me know if it's just me. But that's all for this video. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in my next one. Bye! Excuse me. There is no thought of. I failed. I read The Nose in a swim in a pond in the rain.